Hello, good day, doctor. My name is Chong Fatt. Now I'm going to discuss about my assignment, which is regarding the early intervention service. Early intervention service has been introduced since long time. However, there are still a lot of people who are unaware of or refuse to accept the early intervention service even though they are eligible. So these situations might due to some of the misconceptions about the early intervention service. So what are the misconceptions? The first one is early intervention service only designed for the young children with the disability such as Down syndrome. B. The children with the disability are mentally handicapped and they will not achieve full potentials. C. The early intervention service will be handled by the expert and the parental involvement is not needed. And another misconception is that all the personal information about the child and the family members, especially the medical history of the family, will be reviewed if they accept the early intervention service. All these misconceptions are not true. For example, the first one, early intervention service are actually designed for the children as long as they are having learning difficulties. They might need the chance to catch up. And then the children with the disability are not actually all mentally handicapped, because some of them, they just need the early interventions to help them to achieve full potential. And early intervention service need the involvement, active involvement of the parents, because the parents know more about their children. And we must always remember that early intervention service will keep all the information about the child and the family members confidential. It will not reveal to others about your information. So what is the definitions of the early interventions? Early intervention is a program or therapy which designed for the infants or toddlers which age between up to 36 months who experience or at risk of developmental delay in one of the following developmental areas, which include the physical, social, emotional, cognitive and adaptive. So this kind of children, they might need extra support to help them to catch up, to acquire the basic skill. And early intervention is a support program which need the collaborations between the parents and the professional in helping the children to develop or catch up, because the parents know more about the children, and the parents know what are the children are expected to get it, to achieve. And then the early intervention service is designed for the children which age between the 0 to 3 years old, because this period of time is considered as a critical time for the brain development of the children, because the neural circuits within the brain are still flexible, and during this period of time the positive learning experience can help them to strengthen their brain. Okay, there are a few concepts about the early intervention service which we must keep in mind. So the first one is that every child is learning through the experience gained in everyday life. So the early intervention service need to design activity which can engage the children in their everyday life. And then the second concept will be the children as the parts of the family member should achieve the goal and the needs expected by the family members. So that's why the parental involvement is very important, so that the early intervention service can help the children to achieve the goal of the family. And the next one is the interaction style and the surrounding factor will affect the development and the children's learning. Okay, because the people surrounding them, usually the children will learn through the interactions with others. Another concept will be the early intervention is the support given to the family and community with the children having developmental delay, and instead of replace them. So the early interventions cannot replace the role of the family members and the community. They just need to help them, to let them know the strategy to help the children with the disability. Another one is early intervention service is actually the coordination service which is needed to ensure that the families are aware of the available resources and other financial support. And another concept about the early intervention service is it is a collaboration between the families and the professional, and they should think about the present and the future support simultaneously, because after the children have passed the third birthday, they might need the extra support. So this is very important for the early intervention service to have a future plan for the children. For example, they might need a special education. Here I would like to discuss briefly about the purpose and the importance of the early intervention service. Early intervention service is very important to ensure the children with the disability who are at risk of developing learning difficulties can follow the learning path or the learning pace like the other children who are developmentally normal. And then the second importance is that the early intervention service can prevent the children with or at risk of developmental delay from being left behind when they enter the school, because the early intervention service can ensure that children acquire the basic skill. And another importance of early interventions is to collaborate and provide support for the family members with the children having developmental delay, such as counseling, because they need someone to talk to. They need to know what are the strategies they can help the children, and so this can help them to achieve their parenting goal. And another importance of early intervention is to help the families to reduce the educational costs needed by the children in later stage. For example, after the 3 years old, what are the service needed? For example, special education. Special educations require higher cost compared to the normal one. So if the children exposed to the early intervention service as early as possible, they might avoid this special education service. And another one is the early intervention service is conducted to provide the coordination service to the family, as well as to let the parents know what are the service that they can provided to them, and what are the financial support they can apply for. And who are eligible for the early interventions? So the populations of children which eligible for the early intervention service will be the children from birth until 3 years old. So there are three kinds of conditions which make the children eligible for the early intervention service. The first one is those with the established condition, whereby they experience a medically diagnosed physical and mental condition that typically result in the developmental delay like Down syndrome. And the second one is those experience a delay, for example 30% or greater in one or more of the following areas, which include the cognitive, physical, social, emotional, communications, and adaptive. And another conditions will be the children are at risk of the substantial developmental delay due to the multiple factors. For example, the maternal illness, the substance abuse, teen parents, prematurity due to the low birth rate, lead to the low birth rate, and also the nutritional deficiency when they are still in pregnancy. All this might lead to the developmental delay of the children and make them eligible for the early intervention service. Okay, in this slide, I'm going to give you some detailed descriptions about the early intervention service. The first thing we need to know, what is the best for the early intervention service to be conducted. So the best place for the early intervention to be conducted will be the natural environment for the children, in which the children and the family members live, learn, and play. For example, their home. And also another natural environment which is suitable for the early intervention service will be the childcare site and also the park. So what are the things that need to be done if the parents want to refer the children to the early intervention service? The step involved will be the step 1, referral and parental consent. Parents' agreement is very important for the further early intervention service to be conducted. And step 2 is the initial service coordinations. After you refer your child to the early interventions official, the official will assign a coordinator for you to tell you the right as a parent to in this service, and what they need to do during the evaluations of the eligibility, and what are the information they need to provide. And step 3 will be the evaluations of the eligibility. The early interventions official will send a team which consists of the service manager, psychologists, pediatricians, speech therapists, and other specialists, depends on the children's needs, and come to the home to discuss with the parents and do some evaluations regarding the eligibility of the children toward the early intervention service. And during these evaluations, the team will also discuss with the parents about the development of the children and what are the conditions in which the parent discover. And then the next thing is the step 3, which is step 4, which is the IFSP meeting. IFSP meeting will be stand for the individualized family service plan, whereby this planning is actually for the parents to know that what are the activities and what are the therapy and what are the program that will be designed for the children. So after the children have undergone the program, there will be another step 5, which is the IFSP review for every 6 months or annually. This is because the children's development are changing from time to time, so there is a need to review the plan. And then another one will be the step 6, which is the final step, transitional planning. Transitional planning is very important because some of the children, after they pass the 3rd birthday, early intervention service are no more available. So future plan or transitional plan is very important to determine whether the children need extra service like special education or not. So another thing is what are the service provided in the early intervention program, and this include the family training counseling, home visitations, medical and health services. Different kind of therapy depends on the needs of the children. Audiology, the automotive technology service, assistive technology device, and another one will be the transportation and other related costs which need by the parents during the early interventions program. Lastly, I would like to provide some information about the early interventions program in Malaysia and what are the support provided. So there are a few early intervention centers which can be found and established in Malaysia. For example, the Spices Early Intervention Center, the Urban Ethos Early Intervention Center, and also the Better Early Intervention Center. All these 3 intervention centers, they provide service and support. For example, the first one is the program. They provide the early interventions program for the children with the special needs, and also with the different kind of therapy depends on the needs of the children. And the second support provided will be for the family, which is the consultation program and the counseling sessions with the family members, because some of the family member might feel depressed and they need to someone to talk to, and they need to know what are the strategy that in helping the children. So this center will provide the consultation program for them. And another one support 3 will be the resource center. So some of the center, they might play the role at the resource center for some of the resource like books, toys and equipment, which is catered for the children with the developmental delay. So the people who need it, they can get from this center. And the last support will be the inclusion support, because some of the kindergarten and preschool, they tend to include the children with the disability in their program together with the children without disability. So it is very important for this early intervention center to provide some training for the teacher within that particular kindergarten, so that they can carry out the inclusion in their program well and smooth. So these are some of the informations regarding the early intervention program in Malaysia and the support provided. So these are the information from me about the early intervention service, and thank you very much for listening to me. Thank you and bye bye.